New Brunswickers have been clear. They don't want our province to make concessions or compromise who we are or the value of what we produce in the face of a deal that isn't fair or in our best interests. We want the best deal for New Brunswickers, not just any deal, and certainly not a bad deal. You cannot negotiate a fair deal when the other side keeps changing the terms right up until the last minute. And we know that New Brunswickers expect us to stand up for our workers, for our entrepreneurs, for our businesses, and our province at this time. And that means walking away from a bad deal and taking action. New Brunswickers have already shown fierce loyalty to our province and to the incredible products that we produce. And now is the time for us to double down. Every dollar we spend supporting New Brunswick businesses helps keep someone in our province working and helps strengthen our economy. Les Néo-Brunswickois ont été clairs. Ils ne veulent pas qu'on fasse une entente avec un compromis ou des concessions aux États-Unis. Nous voulons la meilleure entente possible pour les Néo-Brunswickois et Néo-Brunswickoises, mais non pas n'importe quelle entente. C'est impossible de négocier une entente équitable lorsque l'autre partie ne cesse pas de changer les conditions jusqu'à la dernière minute. Les Néo-Brunswickois s'attendent à que nous défendons nos travailleurs et nos entrepreneurs, nos entreprises et notre province, notre identité. Cette fois-ci, cela signifie que nous retirons d'une mauvaise entente et qu'on passe à l'action. Les Néo-Brunswickois ont déjà fait preuve d'une grande fidélité envers les entreprises locales, néo-brunswickois et canadiens. Et maintenant, plus que jamais, nous devons redoubler ces efforts. Chaque dollar que nous dépensons peut soutenir un emploi, une entreprise néo-brunswickoise et contribuer à garder quelqu'un au travail dans notre province et à renforcer notre économie. Un travail plus important que jamais. Businesses need certainty and they need to know the rules of today. Our government is working, New Brunswick is working as part of Team Canada to ensure that we have the strongest economy possible, to ensure that we are building new relationships with partners around the world that want what New Brunswick has to offer, our critical minerals, our incredible food and fish, our potatoes, our blueberries, our apples, our wood products, our defense expertise, our cybersecurity, world leadership. We have what the world wants, and New Brunswick and Canada are out there building the relationships that will see us establish greater independence from the U.S., and we will always protect our country's sovereignty and independence and the threats that we're facing from the U.S. today. On va travailler et on travaille aujourd'hui pour de nouvelles relations économiques autour du monde. On sait que c'est important de protéger notre souveraineté et notre indépendance. On le fait par vendre ce qu'on a, ce que le monde a besoin. De Nouveau-Brunswick à des mondes partout dans le monde. Nos minéraux critiques, nos produits agricoles, nos patates, nos bleuets, nos poissons, nos pommes, notre expertise en cybersécurité, nos opportunités en défense. Le Nouveau-Brunswick est prêt et fait un gros travail pour agrandir notre économie, pour éliminer ou éviter notre dépendance sur les États-Unis à un moment où il ne veut pas que nous sommes indépendants. Ça, c'est le travail qu'on va continuer de faire parce que le Nouveau-Brunswick a des atouts et a des ressources naturelles, énergétiques et beaucoup plus pour offrir au pays et au monde à ce moment, puis on va le faire. New Brunswick has what the world needs. Natural resources, energy products. We have what Canada wants, and we are ready to provide those to secure our growth and our independence. Thank you.
Et nous allons maintenant procéder aux questions des journalistes. Vous avez le droit de poser votre question dans la langue officielle de votre choix. We will now proceed with questions from the media. You have the right to pose your question in the official language of your choice. We will now start with Adam Harris from Post Media.
Premier, thanks for taking our questions. You said very little in the aftermath of what was last Wednesday's virtual meeting between the premiers and the Prime Minister on what was then a pending trade deal. Was taking off the 10% of Section 232 tariffs for softwood not enough for you to support a deal? Was the framework of a deal ever acceptable to you? Why or why not?
Mm. The deal that was described back last Wednesday sounded very interesting and very positive and encouraging for New Brunswickers. So we had given our commitment of support to Prime Minister Carney that should that be the deal on the table, that New Brunswick was willing to be part of Team Canada. We saw what was going to be the best deal in the world become even better with the elimination of tariffs on strategic sectors, the reduction of tariffs, I should say, on strategic sectors, the removal of the 10% tariffs on softwood lumber. So we were supportive of that deal. And unfortunately, the people we were negotiating with weren't consistent in holding up their end of the bargain and introduced things that crossed a line for New Brunswick and for Canada and turned it into a deal that we absolutely could not support.
Thanks. Just a follow-up. Donald Trump just threatened more tariffs on Canada, stating the U.S. doesn't need Canada. On Saturday, Mark Carney noted the U.S. reliance on energy, crude oil, natural gas, electricity. My question is, what should retaliation against the United States include, and what shouldn't it include?
Right now, we're working with the Prime Minister and our federal counterparts to come up with the most strategic and targeted retaliatory tariffs possible, something we've been through before as Team Canada. We want to see the largest impact on the U.S. with the smallest impact on New Brunswick and on Canada. So picking those things that are going to be irritants to them, picking the things that might get us back to the table to get to that place that we want to be with a renewed CUSMA renegotiation and review happening, and with the reduction of tariffs on the things that matter to Canadians. So I think we want to see something targeted. I think we need to see something that is going to hit them where it hurts and have an impact. And then we are going to need to provide supports on the federal side and on the provincial side to counterbalance the negative impact of those tariffs at home.
Thank you. Jacques Poitras, CBC.
Hi, good morning. I think you said this morning that you were working on more tailored supports for employers and workers affected by these latest tariffs. Can you just give more detail on what that is and what the cost might be on to your budget?
New Brunswick has a tailored system of supports today. Opportunities New Brunswick and their team of representatives, as well as the team at Post-Secondary Education, Training and Labor at Working New Brunswick, really tend to build their programs around the business or the worker that's in front of them. And so we give them the flexibility to offer the tools, whether it's retraining support or income support, whether it's productivity support or the kind of loans that can help the company get through this challenging period. So that flexible model is one that we have long believed in. Our government knows that we're not a one-size-fits-all province, and every business is unique. And so we tailor the supports to that business or to that worker's needs. The volume of funds that are available, we do have funds that we earmarked for things like tariff relief and things like trade support. And so we're going to have to reevaluate those funds in the face of these new 50% tariffs on about $112 million of export that New Brunswick does to the U.S. And make sure that we have the appropriate supports to provide while leveraging the $25 billion fund that the federal government has put in place to also help support through this period of this prolonged trade war.
My follow-up question, just going back to Adam's question on the electricity, you say you want to have something that inflicts the most pain on Americans and not here. The Prime Minister has said that this is going to be painful for Canada to stand firm. So what is your pain threshold for New Brunswick in this? And at what point does a more drastic step become necessary?
And it's a tricky question to answer, Jacques. What is our pain threshold? I mean, we are talking about people's livelihoods. We are talking about people's jobs, businesses they have built from the ground up, from scratch, to now being thriving enterprises of 10 or 50 or 100 people that are going to see serious impacts to their operation and to their employment. And that's painful for individuals, and it's painful for our province to see that kind of negative economic hit. It has a ripple effect, because as businesses struggle and as workers struggle, that then diminishes the amount of funds that we have to provide support services and to invest in the kinds of things that New Brunswickers want to see: our healthcare system, our education system, our roads and infrastructure, and more. So there isn't a magical number of once we hit this amount of pain, then things switch. The government is constantly connecting with our economic actors and with New Brunswickers to determine how much of that pain we can relieve, how much our federal partners can relieve, and how we minimize to every extent possible the impact on New Brunswick while using the tools that will spur the U.S. to action and to come back to the table with the kind of fair and equitable deal that New Brunswickers would be proud to sign.
Thank you. Anna Mandan, CTV.
Morning, Premier. I'm wondering, in terms of the U.S. tariffs, do you have a number of how much this will cost New Brunswick in terms of jobs or revenue, and also whether the reciprocal tariffs will have an impact on New Brunswick's economy?
Mm-hmm. Right now, our forecast is that the 338 tariffs, the new 50%, impacts $112 million of New Brunswick's exports to the U.S., which is about 0.8% of our total exports to the U.S. We don't yet have a direct correlation to a jobs figure, but we do know that these impacts are going to be felt very acutely and not broadly. So it's not lots of businesses that will feel a little bit of pain. It's a few businesses that will feel a lot of pain, and how that impacts them. Companies like we know from beer producers, companies in forestry products that are making different types of value-added and manufactured products, they're going to feel that impact. I think the general figure I've been given at this point is around 500 jobs, but we're looking to get that tighter and tighter. And our team has been communicating with businesses from the beginning and again on Saturday. As soon as we got the confirmed word from the Prime Minister, we were reaching out to the impacted employers in this province. My colleague, Minister Jean-Claude Damour, my colleague, Minister Luc Randall, responsible for Opportunities New Brunswick and small and medium businesses here in New Brunswick. We're reaching out to impacted employers to let them know that we're going to be here to support them and to minimize that 500 potential job forecast down to something smaller with the kinds of supports and protections that we can provide. Now, you asked also the question about the impact of the retaliatory tariffs. Until we finalized exactly what numbers and what items are going to be exposed to those retaliatory tariffs, we won't be able to give you a more specific figure until we get that locked in.
Thank you for that. Kind of following up with the retaliatory tariffs, I know that a lot of conversation in the States when it comes to the tariffs has been a rising, costs for American residents of the American tariffs. Are you concerned about the reciprocal tariffs, hitting? I mean, a lot of New Brunswickers and folks around the country are struggling with the rising cost of living. Is there part of your plan to help support regular New Brunswickers who might just feel this extra hit when it comes to cost of living?
Yes, we're very concerned and have been for quite some time about the impact of the rising cost of living on New Brunswickers. We have seen how Trump's unjustified tariffs have had a negative impact on Americans and Canadians, and we know that retaliatory tariffs will also have negative impacts. And so we have been doing a lot of work to try to make life affordable here in New Brunswick. From the very beginning, one of the first actions our government took was to put a rent cap in place to take what were double-digit rent increases New Brunswickers were facing down to 3% or below. We froze property taxes and have now done a reform that will stabilize property taxes for New Brunswickers. We've introduced things like the 10% off of power bills to reduce the price of people's monthly power bills. We've had a universal school breakfast, and now, starting in September, an affordable lunch to help families with the cost of groceries, with the cost of feeding their kids. We've covered the RSV vaccine, and we continue right now. We're in the process of an affordability review to look at whether there are ways that we can deliver even more bang for our bucks and help more people who are struggling with the economy right now. But at the end of the day, we need economic growth. We need to be driving good paying jobs in this province. We need to be making maximum use of our natural resources, of our food and our fish and our forestry products, of our human resources, and our leadership in things like I've mentioned, in cybersecurity and advanced manufacturing. And we need to be growing the economy to produce the kind of good paying jobs that will help people through this challenging time with the rising cost of living.
Nicolas Steinbach, Radio-Canada.
Bonjour, Madame Holt, est-ce que vous m'entendez bien?
Oui, je t'entends, Nicolas.
Bonjour. Je voudrais savoir, on vous parlait de conséquences pour les États-Unis. On sait que le Nouveau-Brunswick exporte de l'électricité vers l'État du Maine, entre autres. Est-ce que c'est sur la table de couper l'électricité exportée vers les États-Unis dans les négociations futures?
Ben, vous avez décrit un outil vraiment sérieux. Nous avons des relations avec les États-Unis pour de l'électricité, pour la vente de l'électricité et aussi pour l'achat de l'électricité dans des moments où on a besoin avec des contrats spécifiques. Alors, c'est quelque chose vraiment de sérieux de considérer si on va couper l'électricité à un endroit dans le nord du Maine qu'il a besoin pour leur hôpital, pour leur service public. Et je pense que c'est pas quelque chose qu'on veut vraiment... c'est pas un joke, ça, si je peux dire ça. C'est quelque chose de sérieux. Mais on sait aussi que tout l'endroit, l'Angleterre, le Massachusetts, les États proches de nous autres, ils utilisent aussi notre essence pour leur voiture, notre essence pour leur avion, notre huile pour se chauffer et d'autres. Alors, ce sont des outils pour utiliser à la table de négociation si on se rend là. Mais clairement, à ce point, nous ne sommes pas là maintenant parce qu'on a déterminé que l'entente que les États-Unis nous ont offerte n'était pas une entente que les Néo-Brunswickois étaient prêts à supporter ou que le Canada voulait supporter. Alors, on regarde nos outils, on utilise des tarifs de rétorsion de façon stratégique et c'est une bonne chose d'avoir plein d'outils. Ça nous donne une bonne position à la table de négociation. Si on a beaucoup d'outils là, même si on ne les utilise pas, la possibilité est là.
Et ma question de suivi, la mise à jour financière, je pense que ça peut être cette semaine. En tout cas, ça sera bientôt. J'entends jeudi. Vous me direz si c'est ce que vous entendez vous aussi. Je voudrais savoir à quel point est-ce que les tarifs de 50% vont affecter le déficit au Nouveau-Brunswick.
Mais ça, c'est le travail qu'on fait à ce moment. Clairement, ça a un impact négatif sur nos revenus parce qu'on voit qu'on a des entreprises où leur vente aux États-Unis, leur activité dans notre province va diminuer. Alors, ça va avoir un impact négatif. Comme on l'a vu depuis les derniers presque 2 ans, on a maintenant, je pense que 21 quelques mois comme gouvernement. Et on voit que le menace de tarifs qui a commencé en novembre de 2024 avait un impact comme un gel sur les investissements économiques. Après ça, les tarifs qui ont été mis en place ont diminué l'augmentation de notre économie et qui avait un impact négatif sur des secteurs spécifiques. Et maintenant, avec des nouveaux tarifs 338 de 50%, on va avoir un autre impact négatif sur l'économie, sur les revenus de notre province, qui va avoir un impact sur notre déficit.
Merci.
Merci. Cédric Tavenel, avec les nouvelles.
Oui, en parlant des impacts des tarifs, j'aimerais être sûr des chiffres. Donc, vous parlez de 112 millions de dollars d'exportation du Nouveau-Brunswick vers les États-Unis qui seront, enfin, ça c'est le total des exportations vers les États-Unis et 0,8.
On reçoit le tarif de 50% qui est nouveau.
OK. Donc ça, c'est...
Pas le total. Ça
OK.
représente 0,8% de les exportations aux États-Unis total.
OK, 0,8%.
C'est moins qu'1% de le total des exportations.
Vers les États-Unis. Très bien. Ce que j'aimerais savoir, c'est quel secteur précisément économique, quelles entreprises ça va toucher plus particulièrement, puisque vous avez dit que ce sera un petit nombre d'entreprises qui risquent de ressentir sévèrement les effets des tarifs.
Oui, c'est ça. C'est comme j'ai mentionné, les produits forestiers qui ont été manufacturés ici dans la province, et il y en a plusieurs qui font un traitement avancé à des produits forestiers. Ils vont recevoir de nouveaux tarifs. La bière en était une autre. Vous sachiez des choses comme hockey stick, c'est quoi en français?
Les bâtons de hockey.
Les bâtons de hockey, des choses comme ça. Il y a une liste vraiment spécifique, mais on voit que pour nous autres, les compagnies dans le secteur forestier particulièrement, et aussi des autres produits comme de la bière, on a quelques-uns de nos producteurs de bière qui vendent beaucoup aux États-Unis. Ils vont voir des impacts eux autres aussi. Et aussi, on continue de voir des impacts sur les compagnies qui utilisent de l'acier ou de l'aluminium, je m'excuse, dans leurs produits. S'ils ont besoin des parties de l'États-Unis, ils sont beaucoup plus chers maintenant pour l'acheter ici, pour l'utiliser dans leurs produits qu'ils vendent aux États-Unis aussi. Alors, il y a des compagnies comme ça qui utilisent ces produits de l'acier et l'aluminium qui sont impactés.
Merci.
Merci. Johnny James, Global News.
Good morning, Premier. I wanted to get your reaction and thoughts as the Premier of Canada's bilingual province on French language laws and regulations surrounding trade being kind of a sticking point that the Prime Minister noted to this deal collapsing.
Good afternoon, Johnny. Thank you for the question. There are some things we will never trade away as New Brunswickers. And our status as the official bilingual province of New Brunswick, our language and culture and identity that is wrapped around the French language, the Acadian history, that's critical to who we are as New Brunswickers and not something up for negotiation at a trade table with the President of the United States. So we are exceptionally supportive of and grateful for the Prime Minister's stance that this is not on the table. Our language and the languages we use to do work and what we expect to see on our product labels is Canada's and New Brunswick's choice and ours alone.
And just to follow up on that, do you take Trump and the U.S. making an attempt to force changes to those regulations in this failed deal as another shot across the bow at our country's sovereignty and identity?
Yes. I mean, there were very clear expressions of that in the conditions that the U.S. offered in trying to control who we could and couldn't form future trade agreements with. And that speaks directly to Canada's sovereignty and independence as a nation that will choose to trade with whomever we please and on the terms that we please, something that Canada has done a significant amount of in the last year, 20 new trade deals with countries that are going to open doors for New Brunswick companies, whether that's in Indonesia or in Japan or in Qatar or the UAE or beyond, and a refresh of our European trade deal, which is one of our closest and trading partners that presents the most opportunity for New Brunswick. And so we do see in the president and his team's actions and words an attempt to control Canada and to insert themselves over our sovereignty in ways that are unacceptable.
Thank you, Premier.
Thank you. Annie Saint-Onge, CEMT TVA.
Oui, bonjour. J'aimerais savoir, que diriez-vous là, aux entreprises qui sont maintenant là, touchées par ces tarifs-là?
Merci pour la question. Je leur dirais que nous sommes ici pour vous supporter. On a une équipe à Opportunité Nouveau-Brunswick, à notre département de postsecondaire, éducation postsecondaire, travail et formation, qui sont là avec des supports pour vous autres. Alors, on va vous aider avec les difficultés, les enjeux que vous font face à cause des tarifs américains. Et on va vous aider avec le gouvernement fédéral aussi pour avoir accès à leur support puis leur programme pour ce qu'on peut survivre ce moment difficile. Et on va vous aider aussi avec vos rêves et vos objectifs de nouveaux clients, de nouveaux marchés, de nouveaux produits avec de l'aide et l'infrastructure qui va vous supporter pour que votre compagnie puisse devenir plus fort à l'autre bord de ces menaces tarifaires.
Puis justement, par rapport à ça, où en êtes-vous dans ces discussions-là? Sur quoi travaillez-vous exactement? Quand est-ce qu'on peut s'attendre à ce que ces entreprises-là aient de l'aide de votre côté, là?
On a déjà des programmes en place. On a déjà des supports en place avec Opportunité Nouveau-Brunswick, avec Working NB ou Travail NB, qui sont là pour les entreprises à utiliser. Alors, dès aujourd'hui, on a déjà fait du outreach, je m'excuse. On a allé chercher puis parler avec des entreprises qui vont voir un impact avec ces tarifs samedi. Pour leur laisser savoir exactement c'est qui leur contact et que nous sommes là avec eux quand on voit l'impact de ces tarifs. Les supports sont prêts pour eux autres quand ils ont besoin.
Merci. Catherine de Salta, Acadia Broadcasting. Moving to Michael Robitaille, c'est FAI.
Oui, bonjour, c'est moi. Il y a un écho.
Michael, je m'excuse, il y a un écho.
Oui. Oh, laissez faire. J'ai aucune idée pourquoi.
Je ne sais pas si tu peux mettre ton question dans le chat, puis peut-être Katie peut le demander, ou je ne sais pas qu'est-ce qui se passe.
Désolé.
Moi aussi, je m'excuse.
Non.
On a seulement quelques minutes qui restent.
Lisa Haraplik.
I don't have any questions at this time, Katie. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Premier.
Do we have somebody from Acadia Broadcasting? Global News has their hand up.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Premier. As you urge New Brunswickers to double down on buying local, I'm just wondering, based on the demand and consumption of the tariff-affected products within New Brunswick, realistically, how much of the business potentially lost to U.S. tariffs could New Brunswickers buying local make up for?
I appreciate your point that while we are talking about a small amount of our exports to the U.S., we know the impact to these businesses and workers will be personal and specific. And so we want to see New Brunswickers do what we've seen them do before, which is really focus their purchasing, regardless of whether it's a tariff-impacted product or not, Now is the time to buy New Brunswick products, buy Canadian products. We have incredible things that our country makes that we should be buying more and more of, regardless of whether they're tariff impacted products or not, because that growing economy, that growing activity will give us the tools to support those businesses that are being hardest hit, and maybe even create some of the kind of economic climate that rising tide that floats all boats. So we want to encourage New Brunswickers to get out there and show their pride for this country, their pride for this province, and help us weather this another round of economic damage that the U.S. is inflicting on us, and know that we're going to come out on the other side of this stronger.
Thank you. And a quick follow-up expanding upon that is, based on the province's own purchasing needs, how much has your government shifted from U.S. suppliers to New Brunswick or Canadian companies over the past year or so? And how much further do you think we could possibly go? Do we have any percentages maybe?
Oh, that's a great question, because that was one of our first reactions as well, was to go back and revisit the procurement ban that we had put in place on U.S. purchasing, and to see if we could go further and if we could do more on that front, because we have replaced a number of different providers of products that we don't need to buy from the States, because we have viable and excellent Canadian options. So let me see if I can get a figure for you on that. But we certainly have adopted that same buy Canadian and buy New Brunswick mentality within government purchasing, and through our team with Service New Brunswick, who looks after our procurement. And we're going to look to do more and look if there's things that we maybe thought, oh, it's going to be a tough one to replace. We're going to give it a second look now.
Thank you.
Thank you. And last question to Brian Tate, Acadia Broadcasting.
Yes, thank you. You've been one of the spearheaders behind the whole trade within Canada. I wonder now if you think that's become even more important now that we are basically in the middle of a trade war with our largest partner.
Thanks for the question, Brian. Yes, New Brunswick has believed that it is very important to see us make progress on internal trade barriers. It's why we were the first to move to true labor mobility in Canada, so that anybody with a Canadian certification can come and see their skills recognized and valued here in New Brunswick. We were the first to move on direct-to-consumer alcohol, and now really pleased to see that expanded across the country. Our excellent Minister Jean-Claude Damour has been at the table pushing to see the transportation barriers eliminated. We've signed memorandums of understanding for that mutual recognition of goods and services with multiple provinces. We've just signed actually an interesting regional energy agreement with our colleagues in PEI and in Nova Scotia to really start to get together on how we plan energy, generate and transmit energy, to share amongst ourselves, to strengthen our position, especially as we continue to rely on the U.S. for certain energy projects. We want to become independent in that front, and agreements like those and other steps we can take will really matter. So we are going to continue to push and to lean in on making sure that it's really easy for all Canadians to buy New Brunswick products, and really easy for New Brunswickers to get access to the Canadian products that they want.
And just as a quick follow-up, do you think the other provinces are going to be even more willing to come on board with this and work together to get rid of these internal barriers?
Yes, I think that every time we see President Trump make these unjustified and illegal moves to try to control Canada, we see even more of a desire to take our destiny into our own hands, to build our own, be our own best customer, and to trade with each other, and to break out of some of those old habits that we used to have that were focused on, protecting our small jurisdictions, now for the benefit of all of Canada.
Et tout le temps qu'on a pour aujourd'hui. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you, everyone. Merci tout le monde.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you.